Hello my quilting friends! My name is Leah Day and welcome to this video for the Machine Quilting Party. We're starting a new quilt. This is Prism Path and it is a beautiful Bargello style quilt that we are going to piece and quilt together. So the very first step is to gather your materials, your supplies, and your fabrics, and you can find everything that you're going to need, including the quilt pattern, in the book Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day. So come and check out the book and pick up a copy at leahday.com/walkingfoot, and let's get started preparing our fabric to create this beautiful quilt. So here are the beautiful fabrics we're going to be working with for this quilt. We have Island Batik fabrics in cherry, nasturtium, butter, leprechaun, waterfall, and purple. And you can find this set of fat quarters available at leahday.com/rainbowbatik. So you can make this exact same quilt that I am with these exact fat quarters. Now, the one choice that you have is what background fabric to use. For the quilt in the book, I used Island Batik Parchment, which is a color that's almost a little similar to this butter. It's kind of a yellowish off-white. For the quilt that I'm making today, I'm actually going to work with black as my background fabric. And the main reason for that is you'll actually be able to see what I'm stitching when we go to quilt it. With the cream, it's really going to blend in so much you really wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. So I'm going to be using black as my background. Please pull your background fabric from your stash, or you can buy yardage. Don't feel any pressure to match mine exactly if you don't want to. If you don't like black, that's fine too. This quilt will look great with white as the background fabric as well. So you want to take your fat quarters and go on ahead and get them washed. I would split these up maybe like this. Whenever you're going to wash them, you could probably put that green and that blue together. You could put the red and the orange together. You want to probably wash the purple separately and the yellow separately just so nothing gets bled on them. Batiks do tend to release a little bit of dye as they are washed, so definitely take the time to pre-wash them. And that's going to eliminate just any worry that you have about that. And when you wash them, throw in a little square, like a 10-inch square of white fabric, and that's just a good test. So that way, after the wash is done, you can pull out that little fabric and then see if any of those dyes have ended up on it. If it has, that's a sign to wash it again. And that's just a little insurance policy. I do that all the time. It lets me know when the fabric is ready to move on to the next stage. Dye grabbers don't work the same way. Dye grabbers suck all the dye out of the water, and they're gonna always show up at least a little bit of color. So you can't really go off of a dye grabber. More than likely, by the time you wash something twice, it's probably gonna be ready to go. So don't worry about that too much. Okay, so once you get your fabric washed, then it's time to starch and press it. So I've already shared how to starch and press fabric in another video. I'm going to link that up so you can easily find it. And that's exactly what I've done with this piece of purple. So this is a fat quarter of Island Batik purple. And now I want to do a little fabric dance because I want to cut nice long straight strips right across. And then we're going to go with the lengthwise, so the longer strips. With fat quarters, you're always going to have a slightly longer side and a slightly shorter side. We're going to be cutting with that longer side. And so you could just use a really long ruler, of course, to cut these, and that's fine. But it's kind of hard to hang on to a long ruler and not have it slip. So we're going to square this up and have a fold in it. And let me show you how to get that ready so that it's nice and straight, and you'll end up with nice straight cut strips. So you grab the fabric like this in your fingers and you just wiggle those ends back and forth. And what you're looking for is you're watching this bottom edge. You want to watch it wiggle back and forth until it forms a nice straight line and you don't end up with some kind of weird diagonal crease across it. And definitely watch another video. I share kind of the other view of this, not from overhead, but the front view of that. So definitely watch that other video to get tips on that. Now we have a little bit of a thing here going on. We ripped this fat quarter. I know that this is ripped, so that means it should be lining up nicely with the grain line of the fabric. But as you can see, it's not really lining up all that great on either side. And what this means is we have slight parallelogram going on rather than a perfect rectangle. And what you can do is grab those two opposing sides that were just a little under where they should be and just give them a gentle tug. Just a gentle tug on that bias angle just to encourage those fabrics to come back into a rectangular or square shape. And let's try that again. So I'll pick it up, wiggle it back and forth. That feels a lot better. And look, already those edges are closer just from doing that, just that little bit of a tug on that diagonal. You know, sometimes I don't always bother with this when I'm working with a really big piece of fabric, like a couple yards or something, just because it's kind of a pain. But when I'm working on something small like this with a fat quarter, then I always pay attention to it just simply because it can make a difference in your strips being cut nice and straight. Okay, there we go. Looks like our fabric edges are lining up nicely. And if this feels overwhelming to you and you're just a little confused about that, please don't worry about it. You know, so long as this edge is nice and straight and square, then you're going to be fine. And you're going to cut on that fold. So let me show you what that means next. So I have this nice fold in the fabric and I just finger crease that in. I don't actually take my iron and press it because this might need to be adjusted as we cut strips. If the ruler slips or something happens, we might need to pick up the fabric and square it again. So that fold may change. So I only just, kind of gently hand press it in place, and I just put my ruler right down on top of it and line that up. So you're lining up that fold with a thin line in your ruler. And notice how I'm putting the whole ruler on the fabric. I'm not going to go over here and try and square off the end with just this little tiny sliver. I'll end up way off. I'm going to line up the full length of that ruler with that fold. So that way I'm sure when I cut off that edge, it's going to be nice and straight and square. It's going to be perfect. So there we go. That's nicely set up in place, and I cut across. Now here's a good test. Unfold that long strip and take a look at that midpoint where that fold was. If you see a little V or a dip, like a little peak or a little V, then that's a sign that your fabric isn't square and that fold is slightly skewed. So pick up your fabric and fold it again. It's not a big deal. And that will make sure that your strips are going to end up nice and straight. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over. Why do I flip it over? I'm left-handed and I want to keep cutting with my left hand. So we square up with one hand, then we flip it over, and then we keep cutting our strips with one hand. So I'm going to line up here my cut length. This is the width of the strip that I need. And then I'm also going to line up a thin line on the ruler with that fold. That's ensuring that the strip is going to be straight to that edge of the fabric and square to that fold. We want both of those things at once. And if you're wondering how wide to cut this, please check out the quilt pattern. You can find it in the book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah. So take your time cutting out all of your strips. You want to work through all of your fat quarters, and then of course you also have background fabric pieces to cut out too. So cut out everything carefully, just one piece at a time, and stop to check yourself. It doesn't take very much time just to open that strip up and just give it a look. Here's my other strips. You can see beautiful colors. We got some waterfall, leprechaun. I love that yellow butter, and some nasturtium, that bright fiery orange, and cherry red. So this is going to come together so nice. It's going to be such a beautiful quilt, and I can't wait to show you how to make it. So that's it for today. Get your fabrics all prepped up and cut. I'll meet you back here next week as we begin putting it together. So that's it for this quilting tutorial. I hope you learned a lot and you're excited about cutting out the pieces for your Prism Path baby quilt. Remember, you can find the quilt pattern in the book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah. We're going to be quilting along with Prism Path for the next 6 weeks. So we're going to go from start to finish. We're going to piece it together and quilt it together. So I hope that you'll join in the fun, pick up a copy of the book, and make this beautiful quilt with me. You can find the book and pattern and all the information you need at leahday.com/walkingfoot. Until next time, let's go quilt.